The army used sexual violence as a weapon of war. Their aim was to use a woman's body to weaken the enemy.
Violence continues to spiral out of control and grows.
Guatemala, Central America. It's Easter. The Europeans brought their religion to the descendants of the Mayans in the 16th century. Nearly 3/4 of the population are Native Americans. But to the present day, they have been largely excluded from power. Between 1960 and 1996, a civil war between right-wing military governments and left-wing insurgents left over 240,000 dead and disappeared. And those statistics don't reveal what a recent UN commission has shown was a systematic program of sexual violence directed against the native population. Luz Mendez is the president of the National Union of Guatemalan Women, the oldest women's rights organization in the country. She's on her way to the town of Chimaltenango, where she holds workshops for victims of the conflict.
If we want to stop the violation of human rights going on now and prevent it in the future, we have to confront the past.
Mendez is from an urban, middle-class background. She explains why she backed the insurgents in the 1970s.
I was living in a society run by a military dictatorship, without freedom of speech or expression. We felt we could not accept such a repressive and unjust state, and we felt we had to create social forces to confront that situation.
In 1999, a historical clarification commission set up by the UN reported that mass rape was a tactic sanctioned by the Guatemalan military. 83% of the victims were indigenous women.
The army used sexual violence as a weapon of war. Their aim was to use a woman's body to weaken the enemy. Culturally, women have been considered the property of men. So if you attack your enemy's property, you weaken him. And then you have the factor of racism. The officers leading the counterinsurgency campaign were of mixed blood. So beyond their aim to prevent social change, they were racists and they thought of indigenous people as second-class citizens.
The conflict ended in a peace agreement brokered by the UN in 1996. Luz Mendez sat at the negotiating table as part of the guerrilla team. She was the only woman involved in the peace process, on either side.
I realized that my own team did not treat me as an equal. That was annoying. It infuriated me. And neither did the government, or even the United Nations team. And then I realized that there was another system of injustice at play, the patriarchal system. It was my job to explain to them that peace also had to do with putting a stop to violence against women, with opening up spaces for the participation of women in decision-making processes.
Today, Mendez's organization helps victims of the conflict to get reparations from the state. Almost 30 years since the worst atrocities took place, the victims are only starting to demand recognition for their suffering. Her biggest challenge is to get them to speak openly. One woman in the workshop, a mother of 4 from a remote rural area, was willing to describe what happened to her, but did not want to be identified.
I had 4 children at the time. I was still breastfeeding the youngest. They didn't care. The soldiers grabbed my neck, threw me on the ground with my baby, and raped me. My baby died, and I had to bury him in the forest. There was nothing else I could do. I could not speak of what happened to me. I just shut it out. Now I can speak. I have learned that I have rights as a woman, that my body is my own. I have learned many things and I feel better.
For Guatemalans, the peace is only on paper. The country is riven by violence over drugs and land disputes. Most gang members are men, but this does not stop women becoming targets. The body of a slain woman police officer. On average, 3 women are murdered every day in Guatemala. The government estimates there are around 10,000 rapes every year, but it's only a vague estimate, as many victims are reluctant to go to the police. 97% of all crimes remain unpunished, says the International Commission Against Impunity in Guatemala. Like Luz Mendez, Lucia Moran has spent the years after the conflict trying to bring rapists to account. She's one of the few lawyers in the country who takes on prosecutions for sexual violence.
Our organisation aims to prosecute apparently impossible cases involving sexual violence and discrimination against women.
Moran is on her way to the remote town of Nejab to meet a prospective client, Elena Raimundo. Elena claims she was raped by a prominent member of the community and wants to prosecute.
I was raped by the local pastor and the community seemed to start hating me. A group of men and women tried to kill me.
Lucia Moran is taking the case to the capital because she fears local authorities would be biased against the victim.
El caso de Elena es emblemático para nosotras. Es una mujer Ixil.
Eleanor is an emblematic case, an indigenous Ixil woman living in a remote rural area. A poor woman who does not speak Spanish. All the ingredients of an impossible case. Eleanor will receive psychological support and police security, as I'm aware she has received threats, and what we hope is that we will achieve a guilty sentence.
A film festival showing documentaries about the war. Documentaries that had been banned for years. One of the guest speakers is Maria Maquin. She was 12 years old when she witnessed the shooting of her grandmother, Rosa. The shooting took place during one of the worst army-led massacres of the war, in Panthos, western Guatemala, in 1978. Many survivors witnessed the crime.
The government at the time orders massacres to be carried out by the military. They definitely wanted to target us women because they wanted to break our social networks, our family bonds and our strength, and they achieved it because our communities were torn apart.
Present-day Panthos, and there is still conflict over land. In this case, the army and police are setting fire to smallholders' huts at the request of large landowners who claim they are squatters on their land. Already a leader of the community has been killed in the clashes. Maria Maquin now leads the protest against the resurgence in what she says is land grabbing from the native peoples.
It was as if I had traveled back in time 30 years when I saw what happened 2 weeks ago in the community of Polo Chic. To see a fellow Mayan dead on the floor, his children crying, his widow, his sisters. I felt I was 12 years old again. So why, after the peace agreements, this happens again? All the soldiers and all the policemen, it sent shivers down my spine. Will this never end?
Others in Guatemala would rather leave the past behind. This is an election year, and the country's established parties have put forward 3 women candidates. One of them is Zuri Rios, the daughter of General Efraín Rios Montt, who staged a coup d'etat in 1982.
Yo no creo que sea demasiada la gente que esté viendo atrás. Algunas personas I don't think there are too many people looking to the past. Some do, because they can't put aside their ideological baggage. And if all we do is look at our problems without searching for solutions, then we are really lost. We need to rebuild Guatemala, and we will do this by empowering our women. We will say, so this happened in the past? Fine, let's close that chapter and let's build anew. Let's sit and talk and come up with solutions. Let's leave ideologies behind, be it from the left or the right. We need to be pragmatic.
Despite the work of Luz Mendez, Lucia Moran and Maria Maquin, there are no signs that violence against women is abating.
We're losing our humanity. Historically, people have progressed to give us a set of rights, to make us feel like free human beings. But violence continues to spiral out of control and grows and grows. The whole point of the state is basically to protect its people, to generate well-being, to protect, and up until now it hasn't been able to do so.
We could reach such a level of degradation in our society, we can lose the very possibility of leading lives with a minimum of dignity. So the risks are very high. As we witness the worsening social situation, then we have to face the possibility of total chaos. And that is what we have to fight against.